So hello, ladies. For those that obviously don't know me, I'm Sophia Hasnan. I'm the founder of Women Disrupted and our awesome group. And I just love our community so much. And I wanted to, I'm always like in this quest of just bringing value to you guys and just bringing resources and bringing ideas and tools and just everything to just help us all elevate to that next level together, as a community. So I wanted to have our very first, kind of this workshop around mindset, because that's really where it all starts, right? Is up here, that little 6 inches of space between our ears. That's the very first step. So, so what we're doing today is like a dream come true for me. I want to like pinch myself, and I was connected to our guest Therese by Maria. So thank you, Maria, so much for us. Love you. And so it's truly an honor to be here with you guys, and thank you for everybody for joining and sharing your time with us. I know lives are busy, but you took the time to be here, so I'm very, very appreciative and grateful. So feel free to like ask questions as we're going through this hour. If you have any input, we love audience participation, obviously. I'll be asking Therese questions too, but if you think of anything, please, this is for all of us, not just for me and Therese, obviously. So this is for everyone. Ask questions. If you have anything to share about your own personal journey, please share. This is a safe space. And you can ask questions in the comments too, or you can just kind of just unmute yourself and just ask. Without further ado, I really want to introduce Therese to you guys, because she is just a powerhouse. And I was telling her earlier when we were talking a few minutes ago that I feel so blessed. Like, this is almost surreal that like how she's here with us, because she's the woman who basically pioneered the coaching industry before the word coach was even anything. And she's been coaching for what, 26 years.
I don't want to say the industry. I do in Chicago. I did pioneer it.
But I mean, my God.
And I was on the front end of this profession, being her. Yeah. I
mean, I'm literally going to read off here. You helped found the Chicago coaching community. You're president of the International Society of Coaches, 26 years coaching some of the biggest clients, IBM, NASA, oh my gosh, NASA, Johnson & Johnson. I mean, big names. And she's the founder of Radical Leadership, which is a 90-day transformational experience that shifts and transforms how people see and relate to themselves, their lives, and the world around them. So that's what we need. There's some radical leadership up in here. Oh my gosh. So I'm going to turn it over to Therese to like share with us, how radical leadership started, why that name, Radical Leadership, like what is that about? And so, yeah.
Well, I love the way the energy you use the word radical. Like a radical gets a bad rap nowadays, as you might guess, because of extremists. But the heart of radical leadership, and why I called it that long before there were extremists everywhere in the world, was the word radical actually means a return to fundamental, foundational, original, organic principles. And the heart of radical leadership is about returning to your core and really coming home to yourself, because the world's tugging at us all the time. And as a result of that, often if we even had a sense of who we really are, we've lost it, or we lose it, or we get ungrounded. So radical leadership is meant to help you find your way home, sort of a Wizard of Oz, Dorothy, you're wearing the shoes, we know that, but how come on certain days we can't find those shoes or certain situations? Mm-hmm. So that's the heart of radical leadership, and where it emerged. I want to use that word because when I step forward, things open up. I always think about grocery stores, like when I step on that door, things open up. And that's what we're talking about here. So in my life, things emerged. I loved coaching. I was fortunate and graced enough to be a part of the foundation of that and pioneering that industry. And I was wildly passionate about it. And as a result of that, I brought that passion, and people loved that. And so they would hire me. And then the few people who were doing training, I was introduced to them and started taking their courses. And then they asked me to facilitate. And Then I was facilitating coaching, but what I discovered is there weren't many coaches who were creating a viable business. They were going through the training and investing in that, and they were getting the tools. But when it came to building a business and having people hire them, it wasn't happening. Well, when you go to hire a coach, like, what are the qualities you'd look for in a coach? What would you want, ladies? So you jump in and please participate, because you're as much a part of this call as I am, or Maria, or Sophia for that matter, because we learn from one another. So what would you want in a coach? Like somebody you're going to partner around your life with. What would you be looking for?
I, for one, would say relatability. Someone who maybe had, it's not necessarily the same upbringing, but just, certain circumstances that makes you feel more connected to them, because they kind of are on the same field or same mindset necessarily.
Yeah, like you feel connected. There's something about them that is relatable for you. It's relational. Yeah. So perfect. Thank you. What else might you be looking for?
Yeah, to me, it's like someone who can sort of adapt to you and your personality, because I've had coaches who wanted me to do things their way, and it was very uncomfortable for me. So someone who understands your style and is able to kind of,
Yes. Well, I mean, Sophia, I get a little red face because, the industry, that happens, like they want you to do what they want you to do when this is your life, right? So someone who's attentive to you and paying attention at a deep level to what you want and where you come alive and what inspires you, not what inspires them. Great. Thanks. Others. Beatrice. Anything come to mind?
Let me unmute myself first.
Sure.
Yes, absolutely. As I can certainly relate to that. I'm looking definitely for a coach that that will relate to listen to me, because I think it's very important to listen. Okay, if I have something to offer, I want to know, what is that individual? What are their needs? What are their wants? So I want the coach to hear me, and once I tell them exactly where I like to go, what are my goals, I think they're able to help me better that way. Yeah. Along with, that drive, that empathy. Yeah. I think that's very important too. We have to really learn our clients, our customers, and see but so that's what I would be looking for, somebody that's coaching me.
Yeah, I get it. And I would want that for you. And not only listening to what you want, but to be honest with you, most of the people who come to me have no clue what they really want. And so my job is to be curious and to ask powerful questions, and so that they discover themselves at a deeper level, right? So they discover themselves. So it's not just listening to the words, it's listening to at a deeper level. What do you value? Where do you come alive? What are you resisting? What are you afraid of? What are you stepping over? And to feel like you have a full partner in moving forward. So anyone else, these are the qualities, the things you're saying you want are the qualities I wanted for people in coaching, and that I hope I was bringing, right?
And let me interject real quickly here, Therese. For those of you who are taking notes, Therese does have an ebook that we're going to offer you at the end. So you can just be present with us now and you'll get this information at the end. I just wanted you all to know that.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah. And some of this is not in that ebook, because this is our dialogue. This is setting the foundation of what's important to you. And so you are 100% right. Those are qualities that you would want in a coach. And quite honestly, people were surprised they weren't getting business, but they weren't bringing that, right? They were wanting people to fit into their box. They were scaring themselves when they didn't know how to fix it or make it better. But we're not here to fix or make it better. We're here to discover on this adventure called your life, and helping you choose one moment at a time after another that unfolds. And that's what I'm talking about. what emerged in me. I kept looking internally for what do I want? And I wanted a world of coaching where those kinds of coaches were out there. So that's why I actually designed Radical Leadership. And then you design something and who knows how it's going to turn out. You know, you have to deliver it to see what the impact is. And then you discover and you tweak and recalibrate. And so, but here was the amazing thing. People would come and they would transform their lives because they would be listened to, because they did discover themselves, because they were on an adventure, and because we had tools that helped them see what was getting in their way. So that's the foundation of Radical Leadership. You know, I've had the privilege of coaching all these years, and I'm known for kiss forehead, kick butt, you know, because that was the other side to coaching is to really be able to nurture and support my clients when they need it, but also to get straight with them when they were kidding themselves, right? Mm-hmm. And so what would happen in the industry is coaches would send me their scary executives. so then that emerged as a big part of my coaching as well. Mm-hmm. So today, you know, just a heads up, I want to backtrack a little bit and start to give some foundational pieces. So you walk away from this call with concrete discovery and value. May I? Yeah. Yeah. And I am sincere. I do want to design up front that you are a crucial part of this. So when you contribute your thoughts and what you want, we're building something together in community, and that matters, and that contributes to people's learning. So there will be the ebook on this information. We are going to be curious, and I would like to, you know, I have touched on Radical Leadership a little bit, but somewhere down the road, I'd like to tell you a little bit more about it if I can have permission to do that. May I? Yeah, nod, smile, wave. Yes. Good. I can't see too well. I have my bifocals and I'm trying to look up and down. So hang with me, you know. So another thing, so two things we're about. I don't go anywhere in coaching. I don't talk to a client about their first discovery together unless I speak to these two words, which are awareness and responsibility. So as a coach, foundationally, and honestly, when I train coaches, I said, if you get lost with all your techniques and tools, go back to awareness and responsibility. Like, what's right in front of you? So, and turning up the magnifying glass on your life at levels you've never looked before. That's what we're up to. It's sort of like a scientist in a lab with a microscope, only this is your life, because there are all sorts of metaphorical organisms running below your thoughts, that in your thoughts that are under your awareness. So when we talk about becoming conscious in the world and a conscious world and consciousness, it's about waking up to and seeing what's happening below our level of consciousness, below our level of awareness. So turning that magnifying glass up, that's my job, is to help you do that. And then responsibility is so Maria, will you take that down for a minute?
Sure.
And one of the reasons I want to is because that pulls my attention, right? Like the minute I see that, it pulls my attention, and I just as soon have people with me, right? So so the other side is responsibility. I'm sorry, I got distracted. The other side is responsibility. And how many of you like already have enough responsibility? You're like, I don't want any more responsibility. Mm-hmm. Honestly, it's like, we are so responsible. It's like, I don't know what to do with that. I'm not talking about that kind. In fact, if anything, it's about choosing. It's about being able to respond. The word power in French actually means to be able. And so in this world, being powerful means being able to see what I haven't been able to see what options I have available, and then respond by making a choice. So we could also use awareness and choice, awareness and responsibility, awareness and my ability to respond. And then, because what I don't know is running my life, right? So it's really powerful because people start to see that they had tons of options and things were, conditioning was running that they didn't know about. So one of the first places, when I talk about emerging, one of the first places I got curious, this was a couple of years after I started coaching, I was thinking about what I now call the trickster. And the trickster is that voice in our head that is yakking away all the time and has all sorts of commentary. And it has many names. It's also known as the inner critic or monkey mind, or saboteur or pain body. Those are facets of it, but I called it the trickster because it's actually thoughts running through our head that trick us into believing they're real. And so those thoughts are the shoulda, woulda, coulda, shoulda, have to, ought to. So notice those thoughts are in the past and future, and then that noise is, how do I look today? Oh, my hair's bad, or, I didn't dress up for this call, so I just want to show my name. And, I don't want to say anything because I might look stupid. And that's an ugly outfit that person's wearing. And, why did she do that? And I don't know if I'm getting value here. And, so how many of you have that voice inside your head?
And Therese, I love when you said that so many people either live in their past or they live in the future. Like not many people live in the present, like the present moment.
Well, that's because that's what those thoughts do. I mean, they just pull us to a past and a future, and we give credence to that. We think it's important. We think we're supposed to figure it all out, but it just keeps running. It's just like the radio running, or when the TV goes dead at night, that noise. And it does keep us from being here, which is, by the way, this is the power of you. And so your power is in this moment, and it's not in your head. It's actually a wisdom that is inherent to who you are, right? So so how many of you have that noise in your head? I didn't see a lot of hands. I don't know if you're raising them low or high or whatever. So now, good. So I knew I had that. I knew everybody talked about it, but then I got curious as a coach and I thought, okay, so I want to know how much of the time that's running in my head. And of course, I had my experience I could speak to, but I got curious. And literally for 3 years, I walked around asking that question. But here's the thing, I read a book that said we had 14,000 thoughts a day, and I have since read that we have up to 165,000, but let's stick with 14,000 because that's what I was asking about. If we have 14,000 thoughts a day, look internal for yourself. How many of those thoughts are trickster thoughts? And who would dare blurt some numbers here? Like, what percentage of those thoughts would you say are trickster thoughts? Shoulda, woulda, coulda, should have to, ought to, not enough, not looking good, not doing it right. That was a stupid thing to say. That guy's a moron.
Yeah, it's a high number. I would say majority. Majority of my thoughts are very negative.
Okay, so push the pause button. How about some of the rest of you?
Mine would have to be high as well.
Like just throw out a number.
From what number are we choosing?
What percentage?
Oh, what percentage from 14? Oh, I would say probably, 90. Yeah.
90. Okay. And Jen, how about you?
Well, I'm around my children all day. So I would say that I honestly would think that it would be like a healthy half and half.
Oh, well,
and a lot of the negative would probably be, God, I probably could have handled that better as a mother, and maybe I should do better. And
Oh
then
yeah,
other
that's
times-
the trickster. Yep.
yeah. So that
Yep.
happens like a lot. But then when I think about the things that I'm doing as an individual with my mom hat,
Yeah.
not completely on, then I have the positive thoughts of like, this is what I'm going to do and I can do it. And then the other thoughts of, man, you've got a lot going on. Can you do it? And then I'm like,
Yeah.
yes, I can. And no, I can't. Like,
Oh, I love the face. Yes, I can.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, I can. You will get out there. And now you didn't do it right. And now you're doing too much. So, so here's what I discovered as you're 100% normal. When I was asking that question for 3 years, didn't matter where I was, the number I heard most often was 95 to 98%. And I'm talking executives in organizations sitting there going, the Trickster is running our company. And I'm like, you think? You think?
So what was it? NASA thought it was what, 60%?
Oh yeah, the scientists thought it was 60%, which, because they're so inside their heads, they're sure they're right? So whatever that 60% is. But what I was telling Sophia that when I worked with them, it was like they were so in their heads, I would get a headache working. I mean, that's what it would bring up in me as a headache. I go, you guys, you'd have a snap of openness and then you go right back to having an answer. See, because we think we're supposed to look good, get it right, do it perfectly, have the answers, know it all. And that just fuels, that's like gasoline for the fire, right? And we keep trying to get there. And there's no such thing because we are always evolving and always living in a process. So,
Therese, can we also kind of mention like the world now? I feel like sometimes like I wish I was born like decades ago when there was no social media and no cell phones. Like I just wish I feel like this day and age now, it's become so difficult to just keep your blinders on and just focus on your life.
yes.
Because I feel like there's this comparatitis syndrome now with social media and all these things. And it's, especially with women, I feel like it's gotten so much worse.
Yes.
With, comparing that mom to myself or, comparing that business owner.
Oh my gosh. And now you're speaking to some of the qualities and characteristics of the trickster, right? Out of that should, have to, ought to, what is everybody else doing? Now you're speaking actually to the way it manifests. Comparing, judging, distracted, not able to hold a focus, looking for the next thing to do. You talked earlier about just being busy. I mean,
Right.
these are the responses to not understanding that trickster is running so much of the time. And Jen, you talked about 50%, but and good for you if it's only 50, right? I mean, seriously. And it may be that for you. And being a mother is one of the most challenging things in the world, because I just heard on the news that mothers did 3 times the childcare during COVID that men did, right? And who gets motherhood perfect? I mean, I don't know anybody who gets that perfect. It's always like I could have done that and I lost my temper and now I don't know, and I should have done that and I could have done that. And it's like, it's all just so you know, blah, 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 because that is going on in our head, but that is not who we are. So before I move into some details on that, tell me, what's the impact of that? So if we really look and the trickster is running 50 to 95%, what's the impact of that in your life?
I would say it might keep you from moving forward with what you're currently doing, or, something you may want to do, if you've got the negative thoughts.
Yes, absolutely. Right?
It impacts my relationships heavily. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Like,
and
that's
in
what I
what
take it
way?
out.
And in what way does it impact the relationship though?
Because
Turn that magnifying glass up, right?
Yeah, and you're right, and I'm guilty of taking it out on my family. Like if I'm having a bad day, I'm a bad mom, horrible wife, horrible daughter. I'm just lashing out. I know that about myself, and And
how many people as she shares can see yourself in what she's sharing? Like you lash out, or you know, you're hardest on your family or the people you love because there's an assumption they'll love you back, right? So finally I get so frustrated with all those voices. I have to out it. You have to out it.
Absolutely. And then the guilt after. So it's like,
yes, and it starts again.
Exactly.
Coulda, coulda.
Yeah, that you just can't get out of, and then I just break down. There's days I just cry in the shower, I break down, I don't know how to get out of it, and it's just the anxiety.
Well, that's what we're here for, by the way.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's why I'm here, because I don't want the world living that way anymore, and I don't want you living that way, or you ladies, or any one of us. And we're a world that's evolving. So when that's impacting you, was there anybody else who wanted to speak to what the impact on their lives is of that voice having its way?
I was going to share, but I agree with Jen. Definitely negative impact. Definitely, because it's just letting us control us, and so I can relate to that. But that's where I try to, and this is so interesting because I had never looked at it the way you're explaining it, and it's making sense now. It really is making sense.
I love that. I love that discovery. Like,
yes. So we've got all this negativity, just in our thoughts, and negativity is going to produce negativity. So yeah, that's what I wanted to share. Thank you.
Absolutely. And thanks for adding that wisdom, because negativity generates more negativity. And then it does continue to cycle, in which case it gets more and more frustrating. And time-wise, I'm going to move into another tool of awareness that it will help you understand even more about that. Just before we move.
Sorry, Therese.
Yeah.
Kienast, were you going to say something? I know you had.
I'm sorry.
Kienast.
Yeah.
Or no, you're on mute. So okay. All right. Go ahead, Therese.
Erica, thanks for being there. Yeah, seeing your pretty smiling face. Keep jumping in. Yeah, so for awareness sake, we're back to awareness. So now I'm going to turn up that magnifying glass so you're getting a glimpse of what this creates in your life. Welcome. What this creates in your life and the impact it has. And you know what, Beatrice, what you were saying is so true. Like somehow we know that, but we can't find it. And then when you see it, it's like, oh, I'm 100% normal, right? I'm crazy normal. I'm normal crazy, whatever that is. I keep threatening that the book I'm going to write is going to be, we're all nuts. So what, now what? And I'm sincere about that, right? Like, let's just own it and move on from there. So that's the impact on you. And then you were talking about, and Beatrice, you did add this wisdom that negativity creates negativity, of course. And so then what is that creating in our families and in the world? Since that's what's being generated.
Oh man.
Well, I think with all the negativity, I think we're losing the focus on the true values. Sophia, you mentioned earlier social media. Yes, I think I agree. Sometimes I wish I would have lived in the past. I mean, yeah, social media is great, but I think all the negative it's impacting all of us. I mean, I feel that we just walk around, very like this, me, and everything. And even when you look at somebody, the first thing is negativity, because that's what it's in our mind.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And that's what's coming up. Go ahead.
No, I was saying, Beatrice, you're right. I mean, it's a blessing, but then it's the biggest curse in our lives at the same time. Like, it's a blessing that we can all be here together doing this thing online, thanks to, technology and everything.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, it's like, oh my gosh. But to answer your question, Therese, I feel like if we don't take care of what's going on in our heads, we're going to pass it down to our kids. we're just going to create this cycle of this negative, you know, mindsets in generations, because I feel like, and, you know, God bless our parents did the best they could, but they never did that inner work, that inner healing, you know, so that got passed down to us. And now being a parent, I'm like, I need to get this right, because my goodness, my daughter's going to see that, she's going to become that version of me. And so that impacted my childhood, you know, immensely, because of our parents. They never, or maybe they didn't know any better, you know, who knows, but.
Well,
but
here's something I'd like to offer you to consider is you're never going to get it right. Like you said, I want to get it right so my kids, I don't pass it on. Here's the thing, you're not going to get it right because there is no such thing. And you are going to be human, right? Which is messy. I mean, I love that you're here, like your mess is your message, right? The key is, how do we integrate our messes with our magnificence? You know, and let them both be present. And then the key is to help your kids have some of these tools I'm introducing so that they know what they want to take and what they want to let go of, right? Because that's what we want you to be able to do, like create awareness so you can make wise choices. And be connected to yourself so that it's from that place of being grounded and centered, the essence of who you are, the core of who you are, and not from the world's distractive shoulda, woulda, coulda, should have to, ought to, evaluating everything, a cancel culture. I don't even know how people dare get on social media. I mean, if you look me up, you'll notice I'm pretty absent, and there's a reason for that, right? It's like, yeah, I don't really want to play that game, but I did want to reach you guys, and I do want to reach people. So it's such a great example that way. So it is about the choice. Like we do have this, it's like ethics, you know, we do have this amazing thing called the internet, and we can work miracles with it, or we can destroy things with it. So I love that. So this voice is having its way, it's impacting your life individually, disturbing. Mine too, by the way. I mean, I just want to say, in the middle of the pandemic, I have nothing to worry about in my life. Nothing. I mean, I don't have kids. I have 2 dogs. I'm financially secure. I do what I love. And I still would find myself awake at night, right? Given the news and given the turmoil and what's going to happen. So I had to keep choosing where I was going to put my attention, because what I give my attention to soon becomes my intention. And I let things pull my energy. So that's happening. So 95 to 98%. And Beatrice, I bet you'll be lovely at this, but what's the other 2 to 5% then? Like, let's look there.
Mm-hmm.
Or 50%, Jen. I mean, yeah, whatever percentage, what percentage is there?
Well, that small percentage is really, the high percentage is overtaking the small percentage. So we've got more work to do. I have to work on that 5%, you know, definitely.
Well, what the question is, what's happening in the 5%? I mean, what's happening in that percentage? Who are we when we're there?
I mean, I'm in my joy.
Yeah.
Joy? Okay.
But I think for most people, that other percentage is just getting through the day, just, you know, going through the motions of the day.
Oh, for sure.
You know.
And then we wonder why we're so exhausted, right? Yeah. Especially mothers. But so what else is there? There's joy. There's
peace.
What
finding
else?
grace.
Grace.
How about
Grace?
finding grace for yourself?
Yes, grace is like a huge context of, like, you know, that part of us, like everything's in grace inside that space. What else?
Validity.
Say more about that.
Maybe if you've set personal goals for yourself as, you know, either a mother or just as a successful adult, you're validating that you were able to accomplish certain things in your life, and pushing forward and not settling once you've hit one. You set another goal. So,
Yeah. Yeah, like one amazing step after another, and that's enough, right? Like you don't have to do it all. It's like you can feel validated that you just did the next thing and that was the priority and that was important and that's enough, because that voice, by the way, has one powerful impact. Well, it actually has, because it's always challenging us and telling us we're not doing enough, we're not doing it fast enough, we're in the future, we're in the past, we shoulda, woulda, coulda, we should have to, ought to, I'm not doing it right, I'm comparing myself to other people. It constantly is sending a message that you're not enough, right? How many people have that foundational? If I look in my, if I look at my practice, that is a core belief of anybody. And I work with executives and zillionaires and students and moms, you know, so I'm not enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not lovable, and I need to survive. So it's always picking apart what you're doing so that it keeps going there, right? And that's not, go ahead. Yeah.
I'm sorry, but isn't it always easier to find the most negative? Isn't it human nature to look for the most negative first to assess yourself, as opposed to saying, hey, I really did do this today. This was a good job. Give yourself an attaboy, pat on the back, whatever the saying is. And then realize that, you know, you can construct yourself on the positive as opposed to just constantly looking for the negative.
Absolutely. Well, you're affirming the conversation we've been having, and I know you weren't able to join us right away. But what we were speaking to is the fact that that voice that's pulling us apart and tearing us down is running 95 to 98% of the time. You know, and so of course you just have your percentage. Most of the time we're going to the what's wrong with us. People could say amazing, nice things about you, and what are you going to remember?
The most negative first, because it's always easier.
One thing somebody said, and you could have done this different. So you can see it's like in play again. So the heart is, this is running most of the time, but Beatrice, I have great news for you. The 2 to 5% is essence, and it has exponential impact. So take that in. So when we're loving, when we're joyful, when we're creating, when we're playing, when we're laughing, when we have our humor, when we're nurturing others, there's a natural wisdom that flows from us. So it automatically creates the next right step when we're looking there. And that has exponential impact, eternal exponential impact. What happens when I say that? You're all like, any thoughts on that?
You're giving out to the universe what you would like back.
Yes, well, you're creating for yourself your world of grace and joy and possibility and the mess and the magnificence. They come together. We can't get by without being human. You know, that's part of the path. And so what would our world be like? What would your lives be like? What would the world be like if that voice wasn't running and instead you were joyful and playful and on an adventure and not trying to get it right or do it perfect or look good? What would be possible then? Lindsay, you look like you're talking and you're on mute.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm always talking to myself, but anything.
Okay, we liked it. I was reading your list.
Anything and everything, because even if we take just that 1%, I mean, it's like all I hear and all I see is whenever you're with and around positivity, it's like that collective energy and that collective positivity, and everyone feeds off of that. And we can be, you know, we can have our moments,
Yes.
But once one person rises, it's like it gives someone else that permission, and then you just kind of feed off of each other. So just that little bit and that little percent is huge. So I've been loving what you've
Thank
been
you for
saying,
that
and
wisdom.
I'm getting goosebumps with
I'm
it
getting
because
goosebumps
it's so
with
true.
what you're speaking to. Yes.
Yeah, and I'm feeling it. But I
Right.
also have to get my daughter to gymnastics, so it's like those conversations in our head. I was just typing a little note to you guys.
Oh, I love that. Well, thank you for
Oh.
giving that wisdom before you jump off, if you jump off. And I
No,
hope
thank you for doing this, and Sophia too. This is amazing.
yeah. So absolutely, that 1% is the reason we're alive, by the way, because otherwise, first of all, we would have self-destructed, you know. But in spite of that voice having such control of us, we still create miracles daily, you know, and love still goes around. And in this pandemic, in the George Floyd death, I see so many miracles and so much love in spite of the destruction. And I'm just inspired. And so that's what we can bring is grace and love to ourselves, and begin to understand that voice is going to have its way with us, and that's okay. But when I wake up to it, I choose to redirect my energy. I choose to focus on what I want instead of letting that voice pull my energy to, it's really abusive, right? And getting discouraged. So Beatrice, you were going to say something there. Bye. Thank you.
Hi, Lindsay. Thank you for joining us. Mwah. So, Therese, is that what the ego is? Like the ego versus the essence? Is that voice? Is that what?
Yes.
What ego is then?
Yes. So Sophia is introducing a term I used with her. We're trying to look at this elephant from all sides, right? So, and the elephant is in the end the distinction between our ego, which is an important part of who we are, and our essence, which is the context for our ego, the space holder for our ego and our magnificence and our wholeness and holiness, right? So in radical leadership, we identify ego and essence, and we're actually looking at, Maria, I'm not going to have you pull this up, though you were gracious enough to get this ready for me. Ralph Waldo Emerson speaks to ego and essence beautifully, because what he says, the eating, drinking, planting, counting man, him we do not respect. So that's ego. Notice it's functional, transactional, not bad. Because by the way, ego is the one who says good, bad, right, wrong, perfect, not perfect, compare. Essence is whole and complete. And essence is dualistic, like it's a yes and world. Okay. And so he says, the eating, drinking, planting, counting man, him we do not respect. Why? Because we're all surviving. That's the heart of ego, by the way, is to survive. And not only that, but to make us believe that that voice is our identity. It's us. It's me. It's not. Then he goes on to say, but the soul, whose organ he is, would he let it appear, would make our knees bend. The soul, whose organ he is, would he let it appear, would make our knees bend. When it breathes through his intellect, it is genius. When it breathes through his will, it is virtue. And when it flows through his affection, it is love. So there's a part of us that's surviving, and we're doing transactional, functional things to survive. That is not who we are. That's what we're doing. Who we are being is the knees bending part of us, that percentage that is exponential and eternal. So what do you hear here? Can I have a couple of shares? Like, what are you hearing for yourself?
I don't know, and maybe you can answer this for me, Therese. My mind is just going and going from everything that I'm listening to, and it's like, oh my gosh, and really focusing on that small percentage. Would this still apply? I'm thinking, okay, we know all the negativity, and I'm trying to explain myself as best as I can. All the negativity, high percentage, low percentage of positivity, but that small percentage of positivity, can be turned around and decrease the negativity.
Yeah.
In my life, I feel that, and I don't know if this, and tell me if this would apply to that. Sometimes I need to have those fails. I need to have those negativities because that's what makes me change my life for better, right?
Well, so can I push the pause button and speak to
Yes.
that? So what you would call failure and the ego would call failure, bad, wrong, did it, stupid, what were you thinking?
Mm-hmm.
The essence would not call failure, would say, well, that didn't work the way you wanted. So what are you discovering and what will you do next? So it's not a failure, it's a discovery. I mean, you think about Elon Musk taking that rocket to the moon. It's like, how many quote unquote failures do you think he had? Or Michael Jordan saying, I had to fail 1,000 times to, like, I can't remember the exact quote because I'm not a basketball person, but basically I've seen that quote at the bottom of people's signature, and it's like he had to fail a zillion times to become as good as he did. Mastery takes practice and discovery and recalibrating and learning and then growing and emerging, because even then, whatever you discover, like from essence, you're creator, by the way, right? You have the ability to create miracles. So it's only the ego that's going to try to truncate those miracles and get you discouraged, and discouraged means to lose courage. I stop. I give up hope. I settle. And so, but essence is about, we're here evolving, we're moving, we're growing. I don't even know what's next. And that's what I was trying to talk about my career. Like, I didn't plan any of that. It kept showing up in front of me like the door at the grocery store that opens when I step there. And that, and then people say, how do you become a master coach? I go, you fail a lot. You learn what not to do, right? I mean, do you think there weren't times when I got too tough with somebody or I was judgmental instead of creating a space of love and acceptance and encouragement? Absolutely. Well, it's like, okay, wish I had a V8, not doing that anymore, and thank heavens, right?
Wasn't there a saying that said, it's better to have failed than not to have done anything at all?
Yeah.
Something to that effect?
Well, absolutely.
So if you did something perhaps that was a failure in your mind per se, it actually is just like you were saying, a learning lesson, or actually just showing you, hey, wait a minute, maybe that doesn't work, but then the other way will work.
Yes, absolutely. And I do thank you, because it's so true. And I want to speak to that neurology. Neuroscientists now understand the brain in ways they haven't understood it in the past. And all of these decisions we're making have chemical reactions to them, right? So wherever they're going, our body's going with them. So if I go negative, that's where chemically I'm releasing cortisol into my body, which is creating a contraction. That contraction actually begins to shut down my thinking and myself physically and my heart, because it's going into a turtle mode, protective, right? Like, I don't want to embarrass myself. I don't want to look stupid. I don't want anybody to not like me. So it actually is releasing that. And then it, by the way, we can't think straight because the body's protecting itself. Instead, physically opening up your body, opening up your heart, instead of looking at failure, it's like, oh, yay, I learned something, right? Now you're in playland. Now you're in the land of discovery and possibility. I've got a dashboard model I call the awareness dashboard, which points to if I'm in my ego, I'm creating more ego and then contraction and cortisol. If I'm in my essence, I'm playing and gracious and I'm looking at possibilities and learning instead of and joyful, because that's going to open up actually my thinking, and the possibilities in front of me will appear. So there's a physical reaction that goes with that. So you can do either. You can change your thought and then your body will go, or you can change your body and your thoughts will go. Personally, I think it's easier to change the body but and then try to follow, right? But I was thinking this morning too about the Trickster, and I don't know, in the middle of the night I was thinking about the Trickster. I was thinking, I'm excited about being here with you guys today and the learning, and because I learn, and I get to be connected to you and I get to be in relationship with you, and so this is fun for me. I get to discover with you. I was thinking about the Trickster, and I was thinking, really, it's like a bunch of bees emerging around you, and it's like, no, go away, go away, go away. And then I was thinking the key is to run inside your patio door and close the door. So metaphorically, it's like those thoughts are just having their way. Take a few deep breaths and close the door. Move on, go find something fun, or shake it out. Kids, they look at an ant and they just think it's the most amazing thing in the world. We look at an ant and step on it,
Right.
That's why we're supposed to be like little children. And physically, that is a true statement. That's where our creativity lies. So I want to check in with you, Sophia, because we've said a lot. We're here almost at 1, so I want to see what our schedule is, how you guys are doing, because I do have another place to go that's powerful. So
you guys, how are you ladies doing? Thumbs up. Doing okay? I'm taking in a lot, and I was going to ask you a quick question about more than just like negative self-talk. I mean, would that also be considered part of our ego, is when we've been through a very traumatic past, or I'm talking about those that have been abused, or when you have suffered a major loss in your life, or when you're in heavy grief and you're grieving for a long time and you just can't seem to move on, or I'm talking about like those really traumatic experiences in our past. Like, would that also be considered part of the ego?
There's a yes and to that. So life is happening, and one of the questions I want to ask is, so if 95 to 98% of our thoughts are trickster thoughts and negative, and that's true about you and you and you and you and you and everybody I work with and everybody around, then, and it's what you spoke to, Beatrice, like, we are going to have a crazy world. It's like bumper cars. Now that anger and that frustration and that hopelessness starts to emerge all around us. So it creates abuse, and then it is the abused. But then, there's a saying, the abused abuse, right? Because they're hurt. They're angry and sad and scared that this is the world we live in. So we do live in a world where things happen. And how do we not take it personally? So one of the things the Trickster does is have you take life personally, like it was about you, right? That's why it happened. You weren't enough. You weren't worthy. You weren't lovable. That's why so that's the undercurrent of the voice. Does that make sense to you?
Mm-hmm.
I'm looking at all of you, like it's the undercurrent voice. And then we take it personal, and then we hurt ourselves at a deeper and deeper level. And then the more we keep trying to find our way out of that, the more we're almost re-hurting ourselves, and we become the abused. Because now every time I'm repeating that, and that's not to say I don't need to go talk through it and be seen and heard and honored. But mostly it's about honoring yourself, that had nothing to do with you. It wasn't about you, and it wasn't personal. Bumper cars, that person's junk ran into me. And now what do I want to choose with it? So somebody asked me once, well, I said, there's no such thing as victims in the world. And that's a little bit of our next conversation. And somebody said, well, how could that be true? What about, children who, they use the extreme versions, children who are abused or sexually abused or verbally or physically, or even killed for that matter. And our should have to mind has a place of like what should be happening in the world, right? But again, in essence, if we're eternal beings, if we're gracious beings and exponential impact, then it's an instant choice. Like things are going to happen to me, and then I get to choose. And by the way, you're talking to a professional victim, because I went through a divorce, and my ex went to his class reunion and ran off with a gal. And that wasn't my fantasy version of marriage, right? So I got to tell you, I took that so personal. And I did go get counseling, and I did get therapy, but I gotta say, from over here, I made that really a long and drawn out process, right? Like that would have been healthy, and that was his stuff. That and yes, did I contribute to that? Sure, but then what do I want to choose differently moving forward? And then let that be about him, and also know that's part of my path, right? By the way, if he didn't do that, I wouldn't be here today. If he didn't do that, I never would have created Radical Leadership. If he didn't do that, I never would have been a coach. None of that would have happened. So these things that happen to us are places where we can give up and give our lives over and our power over, or we can own our power and climb. There's the awareness and choice piece. And I want to honor that horrible, horrible things happen. And there's always, I have to say to myself, like I send prayers when I watch news and tough stuff, is like, okay, so I'm going to trust that was meant to happen. So what now? What do I want to do with that? Where do I make the world a better place? How do I bring essence to that? Make sense?
Mm-hmm. And that kind of, when you said about the world and how, how people will ask you, like, what are your goals for the next 6 months, 12 months? And how your approach is so different to that. So that made me think about that conversation we had. That was cool.
Yeah. Well, do you want to tell them about that? So yeah. Do you remember what the context of that was? Like energetically, it was like you tried it on and went, oh, goals. Ooh.
It's intimidating in a way to write down your goals and, have it, because a lot of people will say, you should have your goals written down where you can see them every day and have it,
yep,
manifest them and have it there. And so it's always, visible to you, and you have to have a plan and all these things. And to me, that's super intimidating to the point that I don't even do it then.
Of course. How many of you can follow that path? And then I just don't do it. I am definitely one of those. And here's the thing, it's ego again, but there's nothing wrong with ego. So it's like we're going to hear, in spite of what I'm saying, that there's something bad about ego. And there's not. Ego would set goals. What essence would do is create an inspirational context for those goals And the inspiration is what's going to inspire your actions. If you move from the goal, it's going to be a should, have to, ought to, practical, transactional, what's next step. That's not the same as inspirational. That's not the same as a vision that has me jumping out of bed every morning. Make sense? It becomes a should, have to, ought to. So there's nothing wrong with goals. I would just make sure I had an inspiring vision that was more important, and that then I stayed awake, because by the way, we create our plans and then there are the plans. Mine was not the divorce, by the way, was not the class reunion. So, and yet I look and go, yeah, it's also so much bigger and better than I could have ever imagined. And so you want to be available for that, the bigger and better part. And it's usually right in front of you. That's why I say that door. You know, you step on the door, you do something courageous. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense. Be willing to make, I said, one of my executive clients this morning I was coaching, I said, be willing to make a total fool out of yourself. You know, the movie As Good as It Gets. I said, that's one of the most powerful things you can do. Mm-hmm. So,
absolutely.
So good. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the essence is, you know, what do you want the world to look like after you're not here? In a sense.
Oh, well, so what Sophia is speaking to is like in radical leadership, and by the way, we deepen all of this, and you get to see other people interacting with these discoveries and making choices, and you get to make choices, and you get feedback, and you have support, and you're encouraged. So really, radical leadership, just give you the golden nugget version, is a 90-day program. It starts with a 3-day retreat in person intensive, and we share. This is the conversation. These are some of the pieces, because this is going to be hard to hold on to. Like you'll leave, and on Monday you'll be going, I know that there was something powerful there that gave me goosebumps, but I can't remember what it was. You know, and why? Because our conditioning will take back over, and we'll go back, right? So. And then we have 90 days of coaching, group coaching to go with that. So you have a community who's on this path together to help anchor these things. So now that being said, one of the things I shared with Sophia is that, you know, one of the questions I asked myself was this question of like, what do I want in the world 300 years from now because I'm here today, right? What I'm going to ask that again. So what because you may want to write down this question. It's not in, we're going off script, just so you know, a little, and it's all powerful conversation. Because that question does what? Like when we ask that question, what do you want in the world 300 years from now because you're here today? What's different between what's your 5 or 10-year goal? And you can speak to that because you had an immediate reaction to that, like.
Absolutely. I mean, to me, that kind of stirs me up more emotionally than the question of, you know, what's my goal in the next 12 months or whatever. But yeah, I guess the essence version of it is it just makes it more, because what stirs up the emotion will then stir up the action, will then, you know, you'll actually make something happen.
Well, and the difference is, like, notice how when you said, I'm supposed to write my goals and I don't know what they are, so I don't do it, right? Welcome to human being and why I'm a coach, because that's the norm, right? And I have these intentions and then I don't do them. But when I ask myself the question, what do I want 300 years from now? There's no should, have to, ought to, right version. There's only like, if I could have whatever I wanted, what would that be? And by the way, we talked about ego, that thoughts in our head, thinking is ego, by the way. Thinking is ego. Again, not bad, just limited. The thoughts in our head are all ego. Well, it takes me out of my thought and into the land of possibility. And now I'm in my imagination, wanting from my heart what I want. But no pressure, because it's 300 years from now, right? But now I'm planting seeds. So we talked about the 95 to 98%. So here, would you like to know what my answer to that question was? What I want 300 years from now, guys?
Sure.
Yeah. I decided that now ego is running 95 to 98% and essence is running, 2 to 5%. And I decided 300 years from now, I want that shifted so that it's 95 to 98% essence, in which case when ego shows up, we'll just laugh and move. And by the way, that heart's desire had me walk into a corporate client who had 2,500 people. And I said, I would like you to create a company of awareness and responsibility. And they're going, what does that look like? And I go, I have no clue, but I know it would be something. Seriously, talk about making a fool out of yourself. I'm like talking to myself the whole time. The ego's going, you're going to make a fool out of yourself. You're going to lose that client. They're good clients of yours. You might not want to do that. You should have a backup plan in case you get in there and chicken out. They decided to take and live in the land of possibility with me because they had been coached and knew that awareness and responsibility was creating miracles in their lives. Well, they brought, by the way, then I designed Radical Leadership. They brought that to all 2,500 employees. Started with the executive team and they went, this is so awesome. We want the management team. And then they brought to management and they said, so awesome. We want to bring it to supervisors, and then supervisors, we want to bring it to everybody in the company. Union employees. And those people all came and went, oh my gosh. It doesn't have to be so hard. Right? It doesn't have to be struggle and suffer. So one of the things I do want to get in the room here is the other piece is, because it's so painful with that voice running all the time, we found a pattern to try to help us find our way out of that voice. And that pattern is what I call the Tricksters Triangle. So back in the 60s, Stephen Karpman discovered that in abused family dynamics, there is abusive family dynamics. There's a rescuer, a perpetrator, and a victim, right? You've heard those, yeah. But he also felt like once those dynamics were in play, you couldn't do much about them. They would never change. But if we take awareness and turn up that magnifying glass, and when we did, we discovered that actually in a very subtle way, the trickster is playing out a villain victim all day long. And so those three archetypes are, let's look at them if we can quickly for a moment. So what is the villain? And by the way, these are all versions of, I'm going to use this word, but it's an ego version of power. So each of these archetypes wants power, whether I'm the villain, the victim, or the hero. It's a form of trying to control the environment. And so the villain is the bad guy, just takes control and runs the show. So a villain wants to overpower someone. And they are the archetype that anytime I make somebody bad or wrong, then I am the villain, right? And then there's the victim, and the victim is powerless, right? So there's that power word again. Oh, poor me. See, if I play poor me, I don't have to take any responsibility. I don't have to do anything. People come over, actually get a hero come over and they'll take care of me, And so welcome to hero, because heroes, I can handle it. I can do that. Let me fix that. Let me take that over, let's do, I'm the person who can get the job done. And so we're moving through these quickly, but the question is, and the hero, by the way, is to power up on people. And so the word power, just so you know, gets a bad rap, right? Because how many of you like want to move away from the word power when you hear it at times?
Yeah.
Do you? Anybody? Yeah. Because
Mhm.
especially women, right? Because what if a woman's powerful? What else is she named? Often.
Biatch.
Exactly. And here's the thing, that is a way to control, to control. The trickster is trying to control us with that. Like, you're a bitch if you're, I'm going to just say the word, right? If you're powerful, and all of those are versions of force. So we've learned that we either have to be acquiesce, and that's a bit of our culture, is to acquiesce and be humble and take what we get, and or be aggressive and assertive, when actually those are all ego versions of power, because power is about control. I'm trying to control things. Why? Because I'm afraid. Fear underlies all of that. So if fear is underlying anything, we're on the triangle, because that's what ego does. It's about fear. That's the foundation of ego. So what are some things you'll hear a villain say? Let's just have some fun with this. Just throw out some ideas. Throw mud against the wall. Blurt.
Ooh, the villain.
Yeah, like things you'll hear the villain say.
I mean, you're never gonna make it, not good enough, so and so is better, or you're not meant for this.
Yeah, it's discounting, right? It's like that was stupid. What is wrong with you? Why aren't you more like me? What
I've never placed you in that role.
Go ahead, say that.
I've never placed you in that role. I've never put you in that.
Yeah, absolutely. Others? I mean, you're getting good ones, and I'm fast forwarding a little bit, but I don't want to truncate the learning. So the villain is making anybody bad or wrong, and discounting them, and it's motivated by fear and anger and trying to feel a sense of control. These are all about trying to get a sense of control. So then the victim, what are some things you hear a victim say?
Therese, to ask you a quick question. So could the villain also be like putting the blame on someone else? Like, if so-and-so was more supportive, then I could do what I need to do,
Oh, honey, you just moved over to the victim.
Oh, that's the victim. Okay.
If only, right? If only they would, then I would. Yeah.
Because for me, it's my spouse, and he is very not usually on board with anything I do. So
yeah, well, there you go.
Crazy. I mean, so that always is like, man, if he was on board with me, we would be unstoppable. Like we could do so much more, so we're always kind of like this.
And you're a villain because you're making him bad and wrong, right?
Yeah.
I mean, in that place, you're making him bad and wrong. And so, but you're being a victim, quote unquote, to your husband. By the way, radical leadership saves a lot of marriages and helps bring gracious ends to some marriages, and I want marriages to work. And I have had executives say to me, if I had had this my first marriage, I wouldn't be divorced now. Seriously, that's
funny.
Because they would have had insight for how to relate in new ways, right? That's all we're trying to do. Mm-hmm. So the victim, what are things you hear them say? If only they. You thank you for that one, Sophia.
Something I hear a lot is fate.
Fate.
Fate, like blaming fate, like things always happen to me. I'm cursed, or God hates me, or like I should never get my hopes up because things don't always pan out the way I want. Like I always hear that a lot, especially in my family. Like they always believe heavily, like if you're destined for bad things to happen, they're gonna happen to you, and that there's nothing you can do about it. So,
yeah, and you know what? If you live there, probably they are gonna keep happening, right?
Right.
And then they get to go, see, I told you. So
right.
But sometimes you get somebody to come along and save you, right? And that's the hero. And so what does the hero do?
Yeah, or like looking to someone to save you, like,
Yeah.
else.
Yeah.
Or like that, like we talked about the past traumas. Like I hear that a lot too with women who went through a lot of trauma and that they just can't, do certain things because of what happened. And so it's.
Well, I was, I mean, the other thing I want to offer, because it was coming up this morning, is Marianne Williamson's quote where she says, our greatest fear is that not that we're inadequate, it's that we're powerful beyond measure. When I'm in a victimhood mode and I'm holding on to my story about the ex, I don't have to do much, right? I'm not owning my power to stand up and do something differently. And it took me way too long, but the good news is I found it. But some people will spend a lifetime there. And here's the other thing to understand and be gracious about is when I get in that mode, remember that physically my body starts to take me into a place of protection and shutting down. My thinking is not as clear. Cortisol is dropping into my body. So it's actually harder to find my way out to see clearly because I can't see clearly because my thinking's not healthy. So understanding physically that that's happening and what we can do to shift that is really important. So we can shift people out of that. And in the end, it's always a choice. That's the good news and the bad news is where do I want to put my attention? What do I want to invest my life in? What's going to serve me well? Now, one of the reasons I would hold on to my story as poor me is because, I did grow up feeling powerless. I mean, I believed I was stupid and I didn't have the ability to be creative and create possibilities. So, I had that story going most of my life. And then the divorce just, accelerated that. And then I went on a path of discovery and chose differently. So, but, we do what we do and we're on the path, and then the trickster is going to say, why didn't you do that sooner? And it's like, but from a place of punishment, like, you stupid, right? You stupid, why didn't you do that sooner? And it's like, what? We do what we do. We're human and we have been conditioned. We came by all our stuff honestly. That's what I can tell you, So heroes come along and try to save the day, but what they do is they're trying to get their strokes and survive by solving the problems and fixing everything and handling everything. But what's the impact of that? Why wouldn't that be great? If there's only 3 archetypes, I'll choose hero, right? Why not? What's the impact of the hero?
Well, yes to everything, getting worn out, and then pretty soon you become the villain because now you're blaming everybody because you're doing everything.
Yes. And then, by the way, you're a victim because, poor you doing everything, right?
Right.
And Maria is pulling up, by the way, what happens when you get on the triangle? You actually can't stay on one too long because it gets too painful. So you have to go to the others. And then, by the way, you're in reality TV. Drama. And then we have an attachment to drama in our world. We like drama. We get our fixes. I should own this, but I am certainly talking about myself. I get fixes from drama, right? I had a boyfriend who was a drama king and then finally went, you're a drama queen over his drama king. So you need to choose differently, So the hero, by the way, covers up and enables, enabler is the other word for hero. They enable others to be incompetent, right? They enable others to be incompetent and they enable others and don't hold them accountable and help people. If it's a mother and she's enabling, she's not requiring her kids to develop, like the caterpillar, using their wings, developing their wings so they can fly in the world. And man, you see a lot of that. I mean, I hear about many of the millennials just saying, well, I'm going to call my mom. You didn't give me the raise I wanted. It's like, what?
Mm-hmm.
You're going to have your mom come in? Yeah. So but even in a work setting, we enable heroes, right? We give them awards and promotions and whatever. What we want to do in the world is create 100% responsibility, so that we're all being a yes to the pieces we take. Like in a marriage, what's the 100 look like? It's about designing that intentionally and consciously together, instead of like, well, you should do this and why aren't you doing that? And then of course, when somebody tells you what you should do, what do?
Do the opposite.
Yeah, exactly. You resist. So telling people what they should do and living out like I should do that, we even resist ourselves. When I tell myself I should do something, it's like, yeah, I don't think so. You know, how many people want to lose 10 pounds and pretend they don't know how? We know how to lose 10 pounds, you know, but it's like, I don't want to. Just own I don't want to and leave it at that and leave yourself alone. Quit picking on yourself, right? So if we make a demand on somebody, they go into resistance. And oops, resisting.
Sorry.
That's okay. Resisting and reacting is another default setting. We've got conditioned that I literally come resistant. You know, it's like, prove it to me, like justify it. And it's like, yeah, that just creates more resistance. So the heart of the Tricksters Triangle, that villain, victim, hero, is again to create awareness and identify where I'm at on the triangle and how to get off the triangle. Because people don't know how to get off, and that's, of course they don't. That's been in place for thousands of years. We just keep moving from one to the next because it gets so painful to stay on one. We try anything. But again, there's a way off the triangle. And that is to, first of all, create that awareness so you recognize it, where you are. You help understand what it is you need. And then in radical leadership, we have new tools for how do you create what you want.
I love it. I love it, Therese. And let's talk about some upcoming things for radical leadership.
Okay.
I want the ladies to know, like, what else do you have in the pipeline if they want like a deeper level, you know, deepen their learning.
Okay, but before we go just to that, it's gonna be very brief. I'm gonna give you some delicious possibilities in just a moment, but I'm selfish. I want to learn from you. What is one thing you are walking away with? I'd love it if each of you shared one thing that you learned today that you're walking away with. Will you do that?
Well, I mean, the ego versus the essence, and I'm so glad you focused on that, because that was going to be probably my first question for you, is to talk about that. So that really deepened my learning on how to change from the ego to the essence and how to switch that mindset. I think that was huge for me. Absolutely.
Okay, so the distinction of ego and essence. Awesome. Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I agree with Sophia as well. Also, and as well, the I'd never heard of the negativity, the tricking, the 95. So I'm walking away with that. Definitely. It just opened up and how to kind of overcome that.
Nice. Beautiful. Thanks, Beatrice. Candace, do you have a thought for us here?
Well, okay. I knew about, how high negativity is for myself, but I kind of didn't think that there were that many people that had that much negativity. And so I didn't know it was that widespread. That's
and I love that. Thank you for that. Will you tell us, and each of you could be thinking about this, what's different when you find out it's not just in your head, it's not just you?
Well, then you don't feel as bad about it. It's like this is pretty normal, Yeah,
I love that. There's your wisdom. Like, you're normal, You're not alone. It's important to know that. That's crucial. Thank you.
Mhm. Absolutely.
I love that I'm at choice. And I own the choices that I make now more than I used to.
And how is that for you?
It's empowering. Like I'm here because of the choices I made to be here.
Yeah.
Which gives me hope for the future and lessons from the past.
Yeah.
So I can be me now, and I'm here because I chose to be here, and I'm glad I'm here.
I love that. And there's also this thing, what I call the sting of truth, Maria, right? Like now I'm responsible for my life. It's like Gloria Steinem has a quote, which is, the truth will set you free, but it'll piss you off first. I love that quote. It's so true.
Yeah.
You know, Therese, and another thing is that is I'm just here thinking that we all go through something. Everybody does.
Everybody.
And we all go through, we're all carrying a cross, some heavier than others. And knowing that people around you will listen, it almost kind of, you connect. And you could have people that actually are just listening, people that are giving advice, but so I'm walking away with a nice community and realizing that we can all make an impact on each other because we're all carrying something.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people helped me out, and can I just share something really quick?
Please. Yeah.
And again, we don't know why, if Beatrice acts this way and Beatrice like this, and I had the worst temper ever when I was growing up, the worst, and people could not be around me. Okay.
Mhm.
And that all changed thanks to family, thanks to God and everything. So I was changed. But, one time I got this job, and I was always, after being so negative and so mean and just a bad temper, then I changed. So I started, I think I'm a happy person, and I would just greet everybody. So I'm walking into the office, my first job, my first day, and I would say, good morning to everybody.
Mhm.
So I walked in, and there was this lady behind the counter, and she would just never respond. And I would walk in the same place every single morning, good morning. And one of the other ladies, she said, "Oh, don't even bother. She's not going to answer. She's been like this for years."
Mm.
And I'm thinking, well, it's not a bother. I say, 3 months later, she said, "Good morning." 3 months later, and then I see her now, and it wasn't Beatrice. It was the grace of God.
Yeah.
And now you should see her. And she came up to me and she said, "Nobody knows what I'm carrying. We're all carrying stuff."
Yeah.
People have made a difference on me. And it's so important and this is, I think, what we are all doing. So I've learned so much. I'm taking a lot from you. Thank you so much.
You are so welcome. And thank you for your wisdom, and you are 100% right. I get to see behind a lot of curtains, Wizard of Oz curtains of some pretty successful people you make up have the life, and nobody gets by. We all, life requires a great deal of all of us. So you extended grace and continued to be an invitation. What I love, Beatrice, was you decided who you were going to be, and you weren't choosing to let her mood determine who that was. And that is the grace of God. Yeah. Thank you. So Teresa, anything for you before we close? And I give you the golden nuggets of
I would just say that, for the majority of my days, I go through the motions doing whatever I need to get done, right? A lot of it's just what needs to get done as opposed to what should be getting done.
Yeah.
Right. And, I am generally I try very hard to be constantly positive and find humor just about and everything that I can throughout the day. I also have 3 teens, so their humor is much necessary, right? Yeah. So, and I just,
choices, by the way, right? Good choices, because choosing humor is choosing oxytocin, right?
Yeah.
It's choosing to take things and create lightness around them. That's what enlightenment means. So please go ahead. Yeah.
But then I think what I'm, to go on with the takeaway was just that, the things that I'm easily distracted by the negative energy, which can shift, not even aware that there was the negative energy.
Yes.
Whether it was something that somebody had said, and then trying to get that just out of your mind to like, no, put that over here, put it on a shelf, or do nothing with it, throw it away would really be the thing to do, is just to throw that away, because that's on them. It's not necessarily on me, which is it's always a work in progress, right? We're always a constant work in progress, which is great. Rich is great. But that's just the thing. And just, I wasn't completely aware of how the negative things were literally distracting me, thinking I'm overcoming that, and I'm not.
Yeah, it's happening. Because
so that's huge for me to be just a little bit more aware of what's going on.
I love that. And I love that. And what you're speaking to is, do not try to get rid of those thoughts. You can't, those thoughts are not your thoughts. First of all, they're not personal. They are happening. They're like clouds going by. So just let them go by. Right. And the best thing you can do is shift your attention to something else.
Right.
And not give them energy, because they feed off the energy. And Sophia on several occasions talked about how then it gets worse and worse and worse, and and it does, and that worse and worse accelerates and expands to our world, right? Because you got three kids, 3 teenagers, you said?
Yeah, 3.
So that can expand quickly.
Right.
So thank you for that. Yes, absolutely. So just a heads up, folks. We do have an ebook that if you're interested in, Maria has created a site for you to go to, which is www. I think she's going to put it up on the screen here. Maria, will you?
I'm going to do that, yes.
www.radicalleadership.com /
the-power-of-you, I think is how it came out.
Yeah, so the power of you with hyphens.
I'm going to share the screen so people can write that down.
And I highly suspect Sophia will send out an email.
And I can drop it in the notes on the Facebook group too. There you go.
Yeah. The other side is, hopefully you got a little snapshot of what a 3-day workshop is like, and how much you can discover, and how valuable this would be. Again, radical leadership has transformed lives. I'm not sure exactly what the secret sauce is, but there is a secret sauce, and it blesses people and gives them tools that they pass on to all of the people around them. One of the reasons Sophia's here is because Maria was using all those tools with Sophia, and she's like, "Where are you getting this?" And Maria was like, "Therese, Therese, come here." So please consider that. It's an investment in your life. And I, of all people, believe that it's crucial to make investments in your life, because a little bit like the L'Oreal commercial, you are telling yourself you're worth it. And in the end, you are the leader of your own life. That's why leadership, by the way, because it's like we're all leaders. We're all having impact all the time. And I'm either doing it from essence or I'm doing it from ego. And wherever I'm doing that, it's contributing to the very same in the world. So Maria, there's something else. One of the other things we wanted to offer you right away was a course that is about values. And one of the first things I do as a coach is I go through values with my clients, because that's foundational. Because the power of you is there is nobody like you in the world. Really, nobody like you. Well, they say 1 in 7 million, but I'd even question that, right? But if we look at DNA or thumbprint, I mean, there's nobody like you on purpose. And values are the way you or I or each of us specifically live out our purpose in the world. And by the way, you're always living those values out. So you're always on purpose, but I will promise you it's much more powerful when you know and identify your unique values, so that you get to know where you're going to point the the wand. You know where you are going to have the most value. And when you know what your values are, you know how to use those in service of others. So, so Maria asked me to do that. We've been talking about that for some time. So we're going to put a date on the calendar, and would love to have you join us for that. So thank you for being here, and go out and spread essence in the world. You know, be light. That's what you are, right?
Right. Thank you very much. It was
Thank
wonderful.
You. Thank you. Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you,
Sophia, for doing it.
Well,
Yes, absolutely. So a couple Fridays from today, ladies, July 9th is going to be the online course that Therese is putting together for us. So Maria, will you share the link for that too?
I shared the link in the chat, and I'll share it in the Facebook group.
Yeah, perfect.
So the sign up for that's there, but if people just want the ebook, that sign up is on the same page as well.
Oh, okay, perfect. It's all right there. Okay, perfect.
so you want to go to the same www.radicalleadership.com/the power of you hyphenate. Have a lovely weekend, ladies. You blessed my life today.
Thank you all.
You have blessed us. Thank you, Therese, and thank you guys for joining. Mwah, we love you all. And stay tuned for more info on the online class. I will post the links if you guys want more of
Join
that.
us. Be sure to join us. We'll be glad you did.
Yeah, I think that's like a 2-hour online course, right, Therese?
Yeah, 2.5, I think we'll go. Yeah, and bring your friends.
Yeah.
Blessings.
All right, bye guys.
Bye.